We'd like to give a huge thank you to our new sponsor, Go Primal Apparel. By using our code Goliath10, listeners can get 10% off all purchases made at goprimalusa.com. That's code Goliath10 for 10% off. Go with confidence, go with pride, go primal. Thank you again to Go Primal Apparel, and now back to the video.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Love and Goliath. I'm here with Mandy McIntyre, and I'm so excited to talk to you. How are you?
Good, thank you. I'm excited as well.
So you're the owner of Level Up Consultants.
Correct.
So why don't you tell us about yourself and your business and what you do?
Sure, thank you. So I'm based out of Cleveland, Ohio, and prior to starting my own business, I was in the roofing industry for 10 years. And I've been in the construction industry basically my whole life because my parents owned and operated a small general contracting company. So I've always been around male-dominated industries and in the construction industry. And I started my own company, Level Up Consultants, which is leadership and company culture consulting to help recruit, engage, and retain employees. And I saw a need for this because everyone talks about the labor shortage. And I'm a big, not everyone likes this, but I always say there's no such thing as a labor shortage. What we have is a leadership and company culture, quality company culture shortage. Big passions of mine have always been mental health awareness. I'm a yoga and meditation instructor, so I've always been very holistically minded when it comes to the workplace. And when I was with the roofing contractor, I just saw a lot of mental health issues. And we had a foreman that was in and out of recovery. And we were very close, and he was a great person. And I remember the last time I talked to him, I said, please take care of yourself. I never want to get the phone call that you're dead. And I got that phone call about 3 months later. He had gone missing, and they found his body. He had died from an overdose, which that then triggered someone else that was working, that was on my team, to relapse, and he went missing. So, and this is all last year. So I was like, something more needs to be done. So I started doing some research. I got a certificate in mental health first aid. And then I took that a step further and became an instructor so I can certify people in mental health first aid. And then I took that even another step and figured I'm going to resign from my job and make a business out of this. And I'm going to tackle the construction industry with mental health awareness and diversity, equity, and inclusion. And here we are today.
Wow, that's a heartbreaking story and also a very powerful story, a powerful initiator, I guess, to get you going in the direction that you're going now. Wow, that's amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah, so we're talking about Suicide Prevention Week, and
Yes.
we're talking about September is National Suicide Prevention Month, and Construction
Correct.
Suicide Prevention Week is from September 5th to September 9th. So we really
Yes.
wanted to have this conversation for this reason. Um, so you know the stats. I know the
Yeah.
stats too from reading it, but why don't you tell us the stats? Because it's pretty crazy, right?
Yeah. So, well, first of all, how long is this podcast? What, like an hour approximately,
About an hour.
give or take? Okay.
Probably not
So
more.
this,
Probably not more.
yeah. So the statistics are every 12 minutes, a construction worker dies by suicide. So just put that into perspective for the time frame of listening to this podcast.
That's in the
That's
States or that's North
in the
America?
States. In the States.
Crazy.
So by the time you're done, 5 people will have died by suicide in the construction industry. 83% of construction workers have are dealing with or have dealt with a mental health challenge or issue. The construction industry has the highest suicide rates than any other industry in the States. And there's a lot of reasons for this that we can go into too. I from the research I've done, I think there's two contributing factors. One, the workforce, and two, the culture of the construction industry as a whole. And I think that the biggest barrier is stigma and fear. Stigma and fear from construction workers that are dealing with the mental health challenge or crisis, and then stigma and fear from employers in addressing mental health in general. So it's like then this becomes this perfect storm of why we have these awful statistics in the construction industry.
Yeah, it's crazy. Why, as you know, like we talked, I've been in the construction industry on and off for many, many years since I was 23 myself. So I know it, I've seen it, I've been on it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's something that it's I was super excited to have this conversation for that reason. Like I can listen to it from the both the I don't know, just from my lens of both sides. But yeah, so
Yeah.
the culture. Talk to us about like the two factors that you said. So
Yeah. So the and this is, I've done a lot of research, and what I have this is just my own putting together uh my own research from reputable sources. But real quick, just some other statistics. 12% of construction workers have an alcohol use disorder compared to the national, and again, these are American statistics. The national average is 7.5%. Construction workers are 7 times more likely to die from an opioid overdose and have the highest proportion of heroin related overdose deaths. They're twice as likely to have a substance abuse issue than the national average. So I just wanted to put some other statistics in there just to, really like highlight the problem that we have in construction. But regarding the factors, so I think the biggest, how I said stigma and fear, but also it's very male dominated, and men are less likely to talk about their feelings, to talk about anything that is emotion related. And I think a lot of times men equate mental well-being to a sign of weakness, and it's really not. And so you have stigma and fear, you have male dominated industry, you have injuries and chronic pain, which leads to prescription drugs, which can then lead to addiction. It's a high pressure industry. You have deadlines, you're working with GCs, subcontractors, different trades, and it can be seasonal and transitory. Especially, I mean, you're up north, I'm in Cleveland. So our we have what, 9 months out of the year, if that, to like actually get work done. So the rest of the year, people may be not knowing where their income comes from. That adds stress. And
mhm.
then transitory, being on job sites for weeks at a time, away from your family, away from your support system. So it's a sense of isolation, and different coping mechanisms may come into hand, which is drug, alcohol use. So those are a lot of the contributing factors of like the workforce, and why these statistics are the way they are.
Yeah, and it's crazy. I just want to interject this a little bit because
Yeah.
I'm a carpenter and a sheet metal worker, a tile setter. I do lots of different things, but I still love, like, especially I'm a fair weather carpenter. When the weather's nice, I freaking love it. But
Uh-huh.
but anyways, I've had, like, a few years ago, honestly, I've been on the job site, and for me it's always about creating a better culture again within the
Mhm.
job site that I'm kind of running or working on or whatever. um and I've literally had a few guys come to me and just cry, just break down crying, because it's
Yeah.
just like all of a sudden just creating a culture where it's like, dude, it's okay. It's okay.
Mhm.
And all of a sudden it's like, oh, like it's like there
Yeah.
so many of these guys are so bottled up with all this like anxiety and stress and testosterone and this and that. It's just like, dude, it's okay. You're gonna be okay. It's like, oh, it's like crazy, right? Like
Yeah.
it's a
Yeah.
crazy thing.
And I've witnessed that too, where I when I was working for a roofing contractor, I tried to make it a very psychological safe work environment. Whereas, hey, I have an open door policy. I'm not a therapist, I'm not a counselor, but I can listen to you and I can help guide you to where you need to go. And I had a couple of people take advantage of that. And it was just like a venting session. And sometimes that alone will just help alleviate that pressure that people put on themselves or that people feel with anxiety or stress. So, yeah, creating a culture of just looking out for another on the job site
Mhm,
and in your company, it helps in and of itself.
mhm. So what do you think are like as far as the creating a culture that, okay, I mean, obviously, as we just talked about, communication would be one thing, but what are
Hmm.
some of the cultural aspects that have been super detrimental in the past that could be overcome?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is having leaders and employers, managers, supervisors, superintendents not have the stigma and fear when it comes to addressing this. So, when you're working with people, you get to know them. You probably work if you're like on a job site. I mean, if you're working remote, obviously that's separate, but you're probably spending more time with them than you do your family. So you know these people. You can notice when someone starts to change. You know, someone starts getting they're getting a little distant or they're getting a little more upset than usual or they're just there's absenteeism. And you just if you see signs and symptoms, just ask, "Hey, what's going on?"
Mm,
A lot of people like are afraid to just ask those questions. And I when I had the foreman that not the foreman that died from an overdose, but the other foreman that uh, went missing, but we got him help. After all that, I had 5 people come up to me saying, "Yeah, we noticed something was up with him," and I was like, "Why didn't you say something?"
mm,
They're like, "Well, we don't want to get involved. You know, I don't know." So I think that's the biggest thing. Empowering people to, if you see something, say something. And prioritizing mental health as a safety initiative because a hard hat isn't the only thing that's going to keep your head safe. You need mental health toolbox talks. You need mental health just conversation and language, like make it normal to talk about. It's not this taboo thing. Um, and as far as like the culture too, uh, I think that I think there's a leadership disconnection between different initiatives for, say, office staff or the corporate level of a company versus the field employees. And I think make bridging that gap will help it because I think a lot of times in an office setting, people are more likely to, have a lunch and learn or whatever. And then the field employees get forgotten about. And
mm,
that happened. I saw that happen a lot, especially during COVID, um, when everyone was working from home. But all the guys and women out in the field, they were out there all alone. And at the beginning, didn't know what was going on, and they were still working.
mhm,
So I think it's a leadership really needs to step it up. We need to talk about it more. We need to incorporate it as a safety initiative, um, and really provide resources. So whatever your healthcare program is, whoever's in charge of HR know what the options are and have it readily available for people.
mhm. Well, again, I mean, in this conversation, I'm going to interject my own experiences, but
Yeah.
so much of it is going to have to be to get the companies and the owners on board, because let's face it. I mean, again, I've been in construction for years, and the office workers and everybody else, they're in their bubble. But the
Mm-hmm.
bottom line is they say what they want to say, and I'm not accusing anybody, but they say what they say, and they may have the best of hearts, but for them, they're not out there. So they're seeing the bottom line. They're
Yeah.
seeing the bottom line is the dollars. Are we getting on time? This and that. So they're not really seeing it. So we need to find a way, I think, to shift it so that the bottom line is obviously going to always be important, but the bottom line has to be the people and the culture. It has to be.
Absolutely. Yeah. And if you want someone to perform well, you have to make sure they feel well.
Mm,
You can't expect somebody to go out there and work 14 hours a day in 90-degree heat or 20 below zero or whatever the elements may be away from their family for, weeks at a time, days at a time, and then just think that no other support is needed there.
hmm
That's just, it doesn't make sense. And clearly it's created a problem because we have these high statistics. Um, and as far as like, and I think that's another contributing factor is that people in the office, they're so concerned with checking numbers, profitability, doing all that kind of stuff that you forget about the human element, the human machine. So, so to say, that is creating generating the profit. These aren't machines
hmm
out there. They're human beings. Like,
Yeah.
so you got to remember that.
Well, what I've seen, because I've been with a fairly big company, and I remember the owner. He was because my wife and I had a relationship with him. He had the best of intentions, and then
Mm-hmm.
his immediate people under that also had pretty good intentions, and the company spouted good intentions. But as it got watered down more and more and more to the foremans, and then the people on the job site, it's like, no, bottom line, get it done. So it's like the
Yes.
best of intentions. It's like there's a gap between these owners, these company owners, or there may be a gap between the best of intentions and the fact that the guy working banging nails isn't hearing all that. All he's hearing is get this thing done. We're behind schedule, and that's all he's hearing. And nobody's bridging that, right?
Yes. I have seen that firsthand myself. And I will even admit, and it was during COVID. I was like, wait a minute, this is almost like two different companies. We
Mm,
have everyone in the office, and then we have everyone in the field. It's there is completely disconnected. Like, we need to bridge this gap, like you said. And I've seen other leaders do that too. There's, oh yeah, our culture is this, and this, but it's a completely different experience
hmm
for the people out in the field, and they're not sensing that at all. They're sensing the exact opposite. um, One thing I want to say is that this is from SHRM. It's the Society of Human Resource Management. There's a statistic that every dollar spent in promoting mental health has a $3 to $5 return, because you'll
Wow.
get more engaged employees, you'll have less absenteeism, you'll have less risk of injury, um, and then you'll also have a happier workforce or a better workforce. um, that then they're going to suggest, hey, come work here. This is a really supportive environment. So it's a huge recruiting effort too. So it's just, every company needs to just stand behind their convictions and not let the day-to-day grind get in the way of
Mm,
that, and just continue to be better. And it's not easy. It's so easy to just start working on your work and just forget about it because you're not seeing them every
yeah,
day.
exactly.
But we
So
have to remember, we can't do that. We're failing. We are failing as an industry big time.
So I want to ask you then, so with your work, are you able to, or are you making inroads to being being like a regular liaison between the two, because that's what we need, right? We need a regular
Yes.
liaison. How is that going for you? Are you making big inroads into that?
So right now, what I offer, and I'm only certified in the States, but I am a mental health first aid instructor. And so what I'm doing right now is trying to get as many people in the roofing specifically, because that's my background and my baby, so to speak, but construction too, to take this training and to start creating a culture where people just give a damn. People care and they want to do something and they have the training. And then, starting with leadership, getting middle managers, getting superintendents, getting foremen trained on these things so that it just starts to become the norm.
Hmm.
And I know there's other people that are like as passionate about it as me, but it's a big undertaking to try to change this, but it's not impossible. And I've always been like, uh, I like a challenge and I'm not afraid of hard work. So to me, this is like, all right, I'm going to roll up my sleeves. I'm going to dive in, and it might get a little dirty, but we're going to do it. So yeah. So I'm starting with like leadership level, and then I want to keep breaking it down, breaking it down, breaking it down. And it's not going to happen overnight, but it's starting to.
Yeah.
There's some changes.
Nice. It is super exciting because again, I've been in the industry on and off for many, many years, and I've seen the gap between the best of intentions and the workers who just feel like nobody gives a shit about me,
Hmm.
like and to create a liaison and a regular check-in, whether it's once a week or whatever it is, for somebody like you to go in and say, okay, we need to kind of balance this a little bit better or whatever. It seems like it has to be done.
Yeah. And so there's a company in Cleveland that I'm working with where it'll be like twice a month. It's just a check-in, kind of like just a climate check, like what's going on, because employees are will reveal more to a third party than they will their boss or the owner of the person that is signing their paycheck. So my goal is to hopefully get like real, honest feedback, present that to a business owner or leadership in a way that um, that inspires them to create some change. Um, and there's also a company in Columbus, Ohio that I'll be working with. And so I want to just get into as many company as possible, ideally, because it's it's mental health. It's the silent safety hazard, and
Hmm.
they're just someone needs to speak for the people that whose voices aren't being heard.
Absolutely, and there's the other side about it too, as far as the bottom line. Because again, I've been out there, I've been on the job sites and stuff like that. You start creating a culture where people feel like they're having fun. That was my thing. It's like, let's have fun, let's enjoy ourselves. All of a sudden they're coming to work, they want to come to work. It becomes a fun thing, to get the work
Yes.
done, and productivity goes up like so far by just like, hey, dude, you're doing a good job. You made a mistake, not a big deal. Let's fix it. Let's go on. Listen to this music. How great is that? Let's keep going. Oh man, you did a great job. You don't learn it. Like create that culture where it's like this is a fun place to be. It's okay to make a mistake, or whatever, right? And
Yeah. Yeah. And that is like, so I like to call that like flow. Okay. When you have like the flow and the energy of a positive, engaged workforce, you can feel it. It's palpable. And I've been around crews where they are happy, they are joking, they're helping each other out, they're looking for each other or looking out for each other, and they get so much more done.
I know.
When you have a crew that is pissed off and they're angry and they're not meshing well, you will get a sliver of the production done than a happy, engaged crew. I mean, I think anyone listening that has been around construction knows exactly what we're both saying.
Yeah, it really is like, you have a miserable job site, a miserable crew. People are going to the Jiffy John and sitting there having a smoke for a
Hmm.
while because they don't want to go on the job site. Their breaks are extending, this and that. You have a happy crew where people are excited. It's like fun. They want to get back to work. They want to show up. They don't want to miss days because that's their friends, that's their buddies,
Yeah,
and of course, even the bottom line is like really, really benefit. It's got to benefit. How could it not, right?
exactly. Exactly. Yeah. And it does. And those are the most profitable jobs when the crew is happy. And like, I just, it's so common sense that I think it's like that that's why people like everyone's looking for these magic answers to like fix production and fix labor shortage, and it's pretty basic, really. It's just doing the work. It
It's
is.
so basic. It's just like
Yeah,
make people feel like happy to come to work.
yeah, yeah. It's really not that hard.
No, it's not. No, it's not very complicated. But again, like you say, you have to you like you doing your work and me doing what I do, and whoever's
Yeah,
a part of this, like recreate that culture where it's like work should not be a drudgery. It should be fun. You're with your friends. You're
yeah,
outside. You're breathing fresh air. You're creating this cool thing. You do seeing new play like it's right.
yeah. Yeah. So, we just have to get our leaders on board. We have to get owners on board, upper management on board to keep driving that narrative that this is a safe, fun, good work environment. And we're going to prioritize your mental health. We're going to make sure everyone goes home happy. And that, because here's the other thing too, when you're unhappy at work, then you're taking that home. Then you're unhappy at home. Then you bring that to work. And it's this
Mm,
vicious cycle that continues.
hmm.
Um, so, I mean, I you want your workforce to be thriving professionally and personally, and you're going to get great work and better profits.
Like you say, it just seems like such a no brainer, and you see it.
Hmm.
When you step back a little bit, like you and I have, you see it. You
Yeah.
see it, right? So,
Yeah.
so again, talking about so if anybody was listening to this podcast, um,
Hmm.
like in relation to Suicide Prevention Week and prevention, like what are things that anybody listening to this could tackle right away to be a part of the solution?
Yeah. So first, I would say if I'm on the task force for the Construction Suicide Prevention Week, and we are doing a pre-week kickoff webinar on August 30th at 10:30 Central Time, and it's going to be around difficult conversations and addressing mental health year round. So we're going to be giving tools and action steps to not just have this be 1 week of, hey, we're talking about construction suicide, and then the rest of the year it's never discussed again. So we have to maintain and nurture the conversation to keep it going. So that webinar would be one. The second is you can register your company to participate in the Construction Suicide Prevention Week, and that is at Construction Suicide Prevention Week. I believe it's .com. Let me double check before. Wait, it's constructionsuicideprevention.com. And that's where you can register your company. There's some resources there. And I think the third thing is to start incorporating mental health toolbox talks. And there's some on the Construction Suicide Prevention website. But there's also, if you just Google it, you'll find a ton. And so if you just start prioritizing and talking about mental health as a toolbox talk, people start taking it more seriously. And I've seen that firsthand in my experience because I started doing that while I was working with a roofing contractor. And at first, there was some like, they were like, Mandy, what are you talking about? Because my first one was called Owning Your Feelings.
Mm,
And I had all the guys talk. We didn't have any women on the crew at the time. So I had all the guys talk about owning your feelings and acknowledging your feelings. But at the end, it actually came out really well because it taught them how to not attach to your feelings. So instead of saying, I am angry, you are saying, then I'm feeling angry. So it's just detaching from your emotions and it gives you more control. So toolbox talks, I think, is the best way to go for construction companies as far as introducing mental health.
Nice. Yeah, as you know, I do the How Healing Happens workshops, which is kind of along the same lines, which is once a week, kind of building that foundation of strength within yourself, so that anybody, but particularly, I mean, it's geared more towards probably more towards construction guys because I'm a construction guy. but
Mm-hmm.
um, but again, these things they have to be. Like I say, it's one thing to talk about it for like, hey, a suicide prevention week, but then it needs to be put into practice. It needs to be prioritized, and right.
Yeah. So, like, a great way to start is during the week of September 5th, make your toolbox talk about suicide prevention. And there's one on that website. And then, I would say at least once a month, one of your toolbox talks is around a mental health subject. And it just starts becoming the norm then. And that's when it starts to really become part of the culture. Um, and you need leadership buy-in, but I think, and I have the, like, a whole, like, statistic thing with the safety and company profitability and recruitment. Like 76% of people believe companies should be doing more to support mental health in the workforce. If you just Google Indeed and Glassdoor and put mental health in there, you'll get statistics. Like, people want this.
Mm,
Um, so if you're listening to this and you're trying to get your leadership team on board, I think the biggest one is, for every dollar invested, you get $3 to $5 back. I mean, on average, that's like a no-brainer there. And you have
yeah,
happier, higher producing teams. Yeah.
it sounds good, but again, I almost wonder. I mean, I wonder. You still got to convince. I think you still have to convince these guys, right? Because they're just so
Yes.
the culture, and they're so brainwashed into thinking, you know what? You say that, but come on, let's get going, right?
Yeah. And I think with that, if I think someone sharing a lived experience. And when I first started introducing this, I talked about my own lived experience. I've dealt with anxiety and depression my entire life. And so I think offering it like, hey, I've been through this, because 1 out of 5 Americans, I don't have the Canadian statistics, but 1 out of 5 Americans will experience a mental health challenge at any given year, in any given year. So if somebody talks about their experience, it then invites other people to feel like they can share something about themselves, or it just validates what they've been experiencing, and maybe we're too afraid to even acknowledge it, if that makes sense. um, so I think if you have one person that knows somebody, or can give a story so that it's relatable, so it's not just facts and statistics and policies and whatnot, it's have it hit home somehow. And I'm sure most companies have a story about a current or former or an employee that has been through something pretty traumatic regarding mental health that they can utilize as, not letting that situation just be in vain. Use it for something good.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, yeah. And another thing I kind of wanted to actually ask you about, and to me, again, it seems like I'm going to go all over the place because that's who I am. I'm just having a
Yeah, no,
conversation.
it's good.
But
Yeah.
but how far? I don't know how the apprenticeship program goes in the States, but again, I've been through this apprenticeship program here in Canada. But when are we going to start doing like we have a week of of whatever. Like I did the sheet metal apprenticeship program, so we had a week of design, drafting, putting together a project. We have shop this and that, and like your week or your days in the shop, and you have all these different weeks that are, But what about the week of mental wellness, or not mental wellness, but leadership? Leadership. You know where I'm going with this? Like, what is it going to
Yes,
take
I
to do that?
do.
Because it should be if you do it 6 weeks of school, like why not make it 7 and have that other week like good leadership, recognizing people who are in pain, knowing how to deal with it, you know?
Yes, yes. And God, that's so needed. And I think the more the industry talks about it and the more we have discussions like this, or a suicide prevention week, or just webinars, whatever, getting the right people involved. And in the States, there's some different associations that are really starting to um, get be more intrigued per se, regarding mental health and seeing it as a true safety initiative. So I think just the more we talk about it, the more people will get involved, and then we can propose change. I There's a couple associations that I've been talking to where I have said exactly that. One in particular is OSHA, where the fatal four is struck bys, caught in betweens, falls, and electrocutions. And I said, it should really be the fatal five, and suicide needs to be up there. And so it wasn't someone super high up, but they were like, yeah, I'll bring it up in another meeting. So just throw it out there. You know what I mean? And see what can be done. It's gonna a whole lot of littles will add up to what some big change. So you just have to
Mm.
start wherever you're at.
Yeah, yeah. I'm really excited to be again doing what I do and to see what you're doing, just to see the changes that are going to be happen. They have to happen. Um, I was just going to say something. I'm trying to remember. I had a thought. I can't remember what it was. Oh Jesus, I don't remember.
But you know what? You made me think of something really interesting with having it be part of onboarding for new hires. And that's something to just, I think, would be a good proposition for employees, or employers, to start talking about how you can use mental health in your onboarding process.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, again, like there's so many. I mean, I've been out there, man. There's so many job sites that are run by guys that are so mentally unstable, and it sets a
Hmm.
tone for everybody else. And all of a sudden, like you say, it's like, and nobody's happy. Productivity goes down. There's so many things. It's like if nothing else, employers or supervisors or whatever have to have those job foreman people like at least trained and aware enough to say like I got to set the tone of happiness, understanding, being able to recognize when somebody's hurting, where it's okay, put the hammer down, come on, I'm gonna give you a hug because you need it, or
Yeah.
whatever, right?
Yeah. And I think that's where, education is power. And I think that investing in some education for your superintendents, your, field site foremen, project managers, to have some leadership training, have some mental health first aid training, and then continuing to support that with their managers. I mean, it really has to start at the top and just keep every level keeps supporting the next, so that the guys out on the field are being forgotten and left behind.
Mm-hmm. Oh man. So what are the steps for somebody that wants to, just out of curiosity, what are the steps for somebody that wants to invest in mental health first aid?
So I have well, you could go to my website, which is levelup-consultants.com. I have a bunch of information there for the construction industry. So basically you sign up, and it is there's a couple different options. I've done it where I come to a company and it's a 1-day training, or it can be virtual so that, a lot of people are working remote and you can do a virtual training. Or you could do a blended where part of it people do self-paced and then the rest is either in person or virtual. But altogether, it's an 8-hour training. You learn how to identify, understand, and respond to a mental health challenge or crisis, how to look for signs and symptoms, how to access the proper resources. And you get a 3-year certification through the National Council for Mental Well-being. And it's like, I am trying to push it as progressive industry leadership, because the more that people do this, then say one company does it, then other company, I mean, you know how construction companies are.
Mhm.
Oh, they're doing this, I want to do that. So like, I'm hoping to use it as, what's the term I'm looking for? Like peer pressure, peer influence, so to speak. Whereas if you see, say, a bigger named company doing this, then another company won't want to be quote unquote left behind. Well, if they're doing that, I want to do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a 1-day training and you get a 3-year certification. And I try to make it really fun and engaging so it's not boring. And you can possibly help save a life from getting this training. So, I mean,
Uh,
yeah,
it's such a no-brainer. It's like
right?
everybody
Right?
should be doing this. So
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that and everybody knows we're going to add all the links to. I'll get. I don't do this stuff. Willow, my daughter Willow. Will
Okay.
did you haven't met Willow yet? Have you?
No, I
Okay.
haven't. I've
Okay.
heard her beautiful voice, though. She has a
I know
lovely voice.
she's amazing. She does all. I just basically show up and talk to people, but
Oh,
she makes it all organized and edits and does all the stuff that needs to be done and posts it and stuff like
mhm.
that. So I'm gonna get her. I'm gonna make sure that we get all your links and the
Thank
links to
you.
the different websites and the webinar that's on August 30th and all
Correct.
that kind of stuff. So she will do that. And so anybody listening to this, you should already be popped up. but I really look forward to that, having those resources for everybody. And I don't know, is there anything else that you really want to kind of tackle?
Um, well, I really want to thank you for having me on the show to, amplify my voice for this, because and thank you for what you're doing with your own initiatives and programs and your business. And I'm so glad we met, and I'm so glad we're joining forces to you know make some real change. And hopefully there's other people out there listening that want to come on board. We welcome you, and we can do this.
Well, I want to add to what you just said, that again, for anybody who's listening, I'm really excited to be, I think you and I can work really well together towards like tackling some of these things between the US and Canada and
Yeah.
like there's, oh man, it's gonna be, we could change, we can do our part to change the industry and the culture to make it so it's like this is a really cool place to be. It's super fun, it's super exciting, and nobody wants to kill themselves, and
Right.
nobody wants to numb their mind with substances, because it's a fun place where they feel
Mhm.
heard and right.
Yeah. Yeah. Life is a beautiful thing. There's too much good to let the bad weigh you down. And so we're gonna do this.
Exactly. Oh my God, I'm so happy. Okay, well, in closing, I think that we'll wish everybody we'll thank everybody for tuning in and listening.
Yes.
And
Yes,
the
thank
links will
you.
all be in here. And happy suicide prevention week, month.
Yeah, don't be afraid to talk about it. It's not don't don't succumb to the stigma.
uh thanks again. Stay on here, okay? I'm gonna close this out,
Mhm.
but stay on here, and thanks everybody for listening.
Thank you.
I'm gonna once again, as every people who listen, I'm gonna try to do my best Willow impression. Okay, well, thank you for listening to the Love and Goliath podcast. Bye.
Thank you all so much for joining us, as always. We love hearing from you, so if you have comments, questions about the episode, topics you want us to cover, or anything else, you can find us on Instagram as Loving Goliath, on Facebook as The Goliath Foundation. You can email us at lovinggoliath@gmail.com, or you can find out more information about the Goliath Foundation at thegoliathfoundation.com. Hey, did you know that 36% of our listeners tune in through Apple Podcasts? If that's you and you liked what you heard today, you can leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. Thank you again, and we'll catch you next time. Bye.